Change Your Life Through Love by Stella Terrill Mann. Part 1. The Nature of Love and How It Works. What love can do for you. You should not waste your time reading a book on how to change your life through love unless you are convinced love actually can do something for you. Your first question should be, what can love do for me? The answer is, love can do anything for you that it ever has done for anyone else and more. There isn't another one like you in all the world, nor shall there be again. Nature never repeats a pattern. She is so prolific, so rich in design and material that she need not repeat ever. But what she has done once, she can do again, and better. So, whatever your need may be, whether for persons, conditions, things, principles, place, soul, quality, or whatever, the fulfillment of that need already exists. And this is true whether of not such a need ever has existed before in the history of the world. You will find the fulfillment of that need and see how to use it by putting the force of love to work in your life. Here are some examples from life which will give you a hint of what love can do for you. Love can heal your body. A young woman learned about love when she woke up one warm Sunday afternoon and found herself lying in a hospital bed. In a moment of clear consciousness, between opiates, she discovered she had met with a terrible automobile accident, that a fight was being made to save her life, that it was thought necessary to amputate her legs, that it had been decided they must operate by the following morning if they were to save her life. Touched by the young woman's loneliness and her apparently tragic unhappiness, one of the nurses, herself the mother of a girl about the age of the patient, said to her, "My dear, life was not made for sorrow. Life was made for love and joy and happiness. How does it come that you, a pretty young woman, are here alone in a big city hospital, facing death before you ever have lived? Where is your husband? You have talked about him. What has happened in your life that makes you so bitter?" Seeing love and not idle curiosity in the eyes of the older woman, the girl began to weep but could not answer. The nurse went on to say, "I am going off duty now, going home. If you will give your consent, I shall pray for you this afternoon, not just for a healing of your injuries, but for your soul's welfare. I shall pray for love to come into your life, for all life's sadness turns to gladness when love comes in." The patient wept bitterly, her body shaken by the sobs of hatred and unhappiness she had so long held in her heart, and told her story. She hadn't wanted to live. She had wanted to die. Young and inexperienced, away from her family, motherless, she had made an impulsive and very bad marriage. She had gone through hell with that beast of a man, she said. On the Saturday morning before, she had gone to talk to her husband's attorney about a divorce. The unjustness of the husband's accusations further embittered her soul, set up such a turmoil in her mind and body that she went hurtling along the highway in a powerful automobile. So mad I could not see, so unhappy I did not care, wishing I could kill N. Determined never to let him have any more of my money, determined never to appear in court and listen to his lies, she confessed. The story finished, the patient said, "Please pray for me. My mother prayed for me when I was a little girl and as long as she lived, but I don't seem to know how." That afternoon, drowsy with pain-killing drugs, the girl lay silent. Down in the open courtyard of the hospital, a little band of Christian workers gathered to sing. They had a tambourine, a guitar, and a drum to make music. Up on the warm afternoon air and in at the open window came the music and the words of love in the form of a song, words that have given courage and direction to millions. The cross, at the cross, where I first saw the light, and the burden of my heart rolled away. It was there, by faith, I received my sight, and now I am happy all the day. Happy, happy, cried the girl in pain. Oh my God, I must find happiness or die. Give me happiness, God, or let me die. Her soul sought God, not a doctor, not another painkiller, not physical aid. When the soul is nailed to a cross of trouble, when the burdens on the heart become too heavy to be borne alone, we always and rightly call on God, and we always are answered. The girl began to relax as she listened to the singing, the cheerful boom boom of the drum. Hope, never dead in any heart, began to stir within her. She began to heal from that hour. A great throbbing, new vibration, the rhythm of love, the desire for a good life had been put into motion within her, and love always heals. All that afternoon the girl lay thinking of her early childhood, of her mother who prayed and sang those lovely old church hymns as she went about her housework. It was found to be unnecessary to amputate her legs. That afternoon the girl began a search for a better way of life, which did not stop in the hospital. Her cry for help was answered. Her words, "I hate you, God, I hate you, world," changed to new words of praise and thanksgiving eventually. She learned that we have a power within ourselves which, if wrongly used, will destroy not only our lives, but our very souls. Yet when rightly used, will heal our bodies and lead us on to a glorious life, not only here on earth, but through eternity. Yes, my friend, love can heal your body too. Love can keep you out of prison. A man who had been in prison for 6 years told me that every man there realized the hardest fight he ever would have to make in his life would be that of trying to stay out once he was released. This is understandable when we consider the fact that most prisoners develop soul-wrecking bitterness, that their prison life and routine kills all natural initiative, robs them almost of the ability to think, so that making a living is in itself a major problem to the ex-prisoner, plus all the handicaps of being known as such. The overwhelming fear of most prisoners is that they will become repeaters. This man had left a young wife and a baby son on the outside. The day he entered prison, he told his wife to wait for him, not to divorce him, conviction of a felony being grounds for divorce in that state. He declared that, once out, he would prove he loved her. "If you had really loved me, you wouldn't have gone to prison in the first place," said the young wife, who had been brought up by a religious family that had tried to keep her from marrying me. Said the man. Her words never left my mind, the man confessed. For 6 years I tried to figure out what she meant. I asked other prisoners, the chaplain. I read, because, you see, I had taken a gun in hand to get things for her. I loved her so much, I wanted to give her everything. I thought I had proved I loved her. The souls cried to God for truth, for enlightenment is always answered. That man learned about love. He learned about the kind of love that Jesus Christ said we should have for each other. He came to understand the kind of love Paul was talking about when he said, "Though I give my body to be burned and have not love, it profiteth me nothing." Out of prison, the man continued his studies about love, how it works, how it frees. He put it to work in his life, and it is the only thing that has kept me out of prison again, he declared. Half the men I knew in prison have since come out and gone back. Some have gone back 3 or 4 times. I have stayed out 13 years now, every one of them lucky. Before I got out of prison, I had learned what my wife meant. I learned that as long as I did not love my fellow men, as long as I preyed upon them, that I did not love myself, God, or my wife. What can love do for you? Love can keep you out of man-made prisons and free you from all the spiritual made prisons of sickness, poverty, fear, and the like, into which you have, in ignorance or defiance of the law, cast yourself and your mind. Love can heal your mind and keep you sane. A woman who twice had been committed to an institution for the mentally ill learned how love can heal the mind and keep one sane. She had been a school teacher, but always had detested her job, never had liked children. For that matter, she had never really loved anyone. Fearing her mind was slipping again, she prayed in desperation, prayed earnestly to be saved from another mental breakdown. She was led to go back to the small town where she had been born and which she had not visited since she had left in years before to attend college. There she spent a summer vacation living in the home of an old lady who was past 90 and had known the teacher's family since before the teacher had been born. In their daily visits, the teacher learned about her family history. She learned she had been an unwanted child, treated coldly. "I used to feel so sorry for you when you were a little tyke," said the grandmother. "A child needs love if it is to grow right, just as an adult must have love if he is to keep sane." Those words opened up a whole new world of fact to the teacher and sent her hunting for other facts. During the summer, she learned a great deal about the principle that the purpose of human life is growth toward its ultimate or God, and that there can be no growth without love. For love is caring, which is a mental as well as spiritual process. She learned that rejecting other human beings, living a life of cold and lonely selfishness, is to cut off the warm mental stimulation which gives zest to living. We do not live by bread alone, but by thought and spirit also, and the ability to think will die out when cut off from the nourishment of love. For love is a two-way force. It must be given as well as received. This sets up a circulation which guarantees mental health. The wise old grandmother convinced that teacher that she'd never lose her mind if she could only get enough people to love her, to care about what happened to her. Then, to prove she was right, she advised the teacher that the way to get others to love her was to get real excited about helping others, to take an interest in people. "It will keep your thoughts bright and young," the grandmother declared. And since it had worked for her, one of the most loved figures in the whole community, the teacher decided to try it. For she greatly admired the old lady's keen wit, her clear thinking, the way she kept up with current news, the great joy she derived from other people's happiness, her large number of friends who greatly cared about what happened to their old friend. So, putting the grandmother's advice to work, the teacher developed a warm interest in life. She gave and received love, fearing no more the threat of insanity. There was no longer reason to be afraid. What can love do for you? It can heal and stimulate your mind, keep it clear and alert, keep you sane and happy and busy, and make you feel and act young. Love can prosper you. A businessman told me love had saved his business and recreated a fortune for him. When after 30 years of hard work, careful building, I faced utter ruin and poverty in old age instead of a comfortable retirement, it was my wife's love and her faith in me that brought me to my senses, stilled my panic, and quieted my mind, and led me safely out of my difficulties so that I made a greater fortune than I had before. The man explained it this way. I never before had appreciated my wife. I had taken her love for granted. When I began to realize fully what it meant, what she actually had done for me all the years of our marriage, I was shamed to tears. It made me determined to prove my worth, to show her she had not thrown away her devotion, her prayers for my welfare. Somehow, once I got the desire to make a fortune for her, everything looked different. Before, I was not working for love. I was trying to prove to myself how smart I was and getting fun out of outwitting other businessmen for my own good. When I began to work for love and with love, to use this power for what it is, I began to prosper as never before, and all fear of ever losing it again disappeared. What can love do for you? It can show you a way to prosperity that you may never have dreamed of before, for there is money in love. Love can overcome your fears. A man came to me for help, saying he did not know just what was wrong, but he seemed to fail in everything he tried to do. His parents had been wealthy, and he had inherited a considerable amount of money. But everything he had tried had failed, and now he was almost broke, he said. His wife was leaving him because he was such a jellyfish failure. In the final analysis, his trouble was found to be fear. The heart of the law of creation is the phrase, after its kind. Like Job, all that he had feared had come upon him. It was found his fears had begun in early childhood, instilled first by a very austere father who seemed never to show love for his son, nor for any other member of his family. In childhood, the man had patterned his idea of God after his father and did not love him nor think himself worthy of love in return. God and Father were only to be obeyed and feared. Fear had further been drilled into him by his ambitious mother, who always talked about her son's friends, catering to him not because they liked him, but because of his social and financial position, which made him think of himself as unloved and unlovable. So he grew up trusting no one, fearing all for their ulterior motives. He heard more fear talk from his aunt, the poor relative who lived with them, and was always fearing the family would lose everything. So he learned to fear God, man, the future, and his own abilities. The man set to work to change his life through accepting love of God as a guarantee against failure in life. It took several years' work. Rebuilding habits of mind and restoring the soul is not accomplished overnight. Eventually, the man did learn to love life, to run and meet it, instead of trying to dodge it. He built a new life by learning a new way to live, the way of love. He rebuilt his fortune. He even got a better wife than the one who had discovered him because she was sure he was only a jellyfish and not a man. What can love do for you? Love can overcome every fear you've ever known, every fear you'll ever discover or build up in your own mind in this world and all worlds to come. Perfect love always casts out fear. Love can build your character. A man whose goods go around the world, blessing millions, told me what love had done for him. When he was a little boy living on a farm, he came under the influence and began to adopt the ways of an older boy who had moved into the neighborhood. One hot summer afternoon, he listened to the older boy and ran away from his chores to go swimming. When he returned in the cool of the evening, his father met him and said, "Did you have a good time, son?" I looked at my father's tired, sweaty, but kindly face. I remembered the work I had left undone, said the boy, grown to man, and I began to bawl. "What are you crying for, son?" asked the understanding father. "Because you didn't whip me," said the boy. "I know Billy's father's going to whale him half to death. He said so, but you're crying because you are a good boy," said the father. "You are ashamed of what you did. Son, remember this day as long as you live. This is the way our Father God feels about us. He loves us dearly. He wants us to love him enough to do the right thing without being watched and forced. But when we fail, our Father does not punish us. We just punish ourselves, son. I make many mistakes in life, such as you've made in running away this afternoon, but God does not stop loving me, and I haven't stopped loving you. Why should I beat you, son? You're my child. I love you. Of course, it would please me a heap if you always tried to do the right thing, because you'll always be happier yourself if you do." "But Billy's father—" "Maybe," said the understanding man. "It is because he does not know as much about the love of God as I do. If he did, he would not punish his son. he would try to instruct him. That man said he never had found a single problem in his life after that day, whether in business, personal, or social life, to which that lesson did not apply. I had only to remember my Heavenly Father's love, to ask His guidance in any new venture, to ask His forgiveness in every mistake. I never went into business deal without first going down on my knees to ask my Father what to do, and again, to thank Him for the success I knew would be mine. My neighbor, Billy, was eventually hanged. He never learned about the love of God. Poor soul. What can love do for your child? It can build character into him. It can give his body health, his mind peace, and his heart great joy of living. Love can direct his life into channels of good and successful living. Oh yes, it can do all that for you too. Love can lead you to love. A tall, gaunt woman, homely by all beauty parlor standards and no longer young, decided to make a good and love-filled marriage for herself. Her mother, a long-time invalid, had died, and finally she was free to start to live some for herself. Long and patient years of looking after the selfish, ungrateful, and dictatorial old mother had taught her so many lessons in love that she felt she could use the power now for her own happiness. She said, "So many years had gone by that I couldn't hope to start in and rear a family of my own. So I decided to ask God to direct me to a ready-made family, a man alone with children who needed all the love I had to give him and them, and who would have as much love as I wanted to give me in return." That is precisely what happened. Is it so strange? If a male mosquito can hear the love call of a female mosquito and by it be directed to her, what is to prevent one human being, the highest form of life on earth, from tuning in to the vibrations of a desire to love and be loved by another human being, and from being directed to that other one by some manner much too subtle for the physical senses to detect or the human mind to understand? I am sure it not only can be done, but is being done every day in the week. People leave their homes and meet love, the perfect life partner, half away around the world. When the lover says, "Where have you been all my life? I have always been looking for you," he is more than likely stating a simple truth, whether he knows it or not, for love always leads to love. The more determined the desire for love, the more surely will it lead on to love. For the desire sets a force into motion which cannot refuse to act when the law of its nature is complied with, any more than our electric light globe can refuse to let the electric current flow through when all the rules of the law of electricity have been complied with. What can love do for you? Why, it can lead you to love, to more joy in living than you ever have dreamed possible. Of course, it must be love and not some other force which you set into motion, if love is what you desire. Love can teach you the meaning of life. When I received word that my only son had been killed in Germany during World War II, said a gray-haired man, I felt defeated by life. I was angry with God for letting this happen to me. For weeks I cried out again and again, "If God exists, why does He permit wars that kill our sons?" Then one night I got my answer. It came to my mind as clearly as the tones of a bell. You yourself helped to kill your son. The accusation staggered me because I instantly saw that it was true. I was in World War I, fought in Germany. I knew war was hell. But I had done nothing in all the years after to prevent war. I had done nothing to make the world a better place for other men's sons. I had not even prayed about it. I had thought I was doing my whole duty to my son by working hard and saving money for his college education. I thought that proved my love for him. Now I know the difference. I no longer blame God. I ask God and the soul of my son to forgive me, and I know I am forgiven, for I'm making amends as best as I can with the life and love I have left. Now I really understand the meaning of life. When I think upon the mystery of life, the possibilities of man, and the glory of growth, I am overcome with love for my Creator, said a devout man. Every doubt of the future leaves my mind, and my soul knows peace regardless of what turmoil is going on all around me in the world outside. When I look at my child and realize there is a bond of love between us, a communication beyond all words, I realize this must be God at work in my child and in me. And I tremble with love of life, with gratitude for being, with thanksgiving for the glory of love and of life, said a young mother. Then I realized I do not need to worry about my child's future. God loves him too. I love a good fight, said a man engaged in fighting an evil in his city that corrupted youth, threatened the whole town. I love my work, said a woman engaged in helping others find happiness and a good way of life after she had lost her son and her husband and seemed to have nothing left to love or live for. The artist loves beauty and seeks to produce and reproduce it with form, line, and color. The scientist loves facts and spends his lifetime seeking them out. The American Constitution was framed by our forefathers' love of freedom and their heart's desire to guarantee such freedom for all their countrymen. Lincoln loved liberty and justice, placing such a high value upon them that he declared no man is good enough to own an other, and helped to abolish slavery. Albert Schweitzer felt his white brothers over the world had so illy used their black brothers that some compensation should be made to them. Consequently, he gave up a great career in Europe to help the black men of Africa, and all the world of justice and good has loved him ever since. Spinoza loved truth so much that he braved the anger, the very excommunication of his fellow Jews, in order to stand by his principles, and all the world of justice and good has since cherished his memory for his stand. Does love always win? Is love wholly good? What about the following? A young woman who had loved excitement, loved a good time, shot and killed her mother who attempted to keep her from going out one night. I love my people so much, said a young man, that I would gladly enslave the rest of the human race and make them our servants. Anything less than such love is disloyalty. You are Superman. You alone are fit people to rule the world, said the German warlords to their followers who loved their children, their way of life above all other children, and all other ways of life. I loved her so much I couldn't bear for another man to look at her, said a man who had murdered his wife. I love my dogs more than I could love my human being, said a woman taken to court because her barking dogs had disturbed a fatally ill neighbor, dogs that had repeatedly ruined her neighbor's gardens. Love me, and the world is mine, wrote the poet. I love you. Around the world, those are the greatest and most longed-for words in all the human language. Even the babe at his mother's breast knows the value of love and lets the fact that he wants to be loved known to all. In turn, he knows whether he is loved or rejected, and all his life long, he will continue to listen for those three wonderful, thrilling words. I love you. For without love there is no living, but only a frustrated and unhappy existence in which one might as well be a turnip or a turtle. We never outgrow the need for love. The old at death's door look for signs of love in the faces about them. Listen for it with the inner ear as though hoping to hear the voice of God saying, I love you. Why do we so desire love, need it, die for lack of it? When we have the answer to that, we shall be in possession of the secret of life itself. Is it possible to find the answer? I think so. I have found an answer that satisfies me. Part of the purpose of this book is to share the answer I have found. If the reader will make sure he has grasped the principles set forth in the next chapter before he goes on with the book, he will have no trouble understanding the case histories which follow after that, nor will he have any trouble in applying those principles to his own life and affairs. We have found the answer to our first question. We have seen what love can do for us by seeing something of what it has done for others. But the answer raises other questions. What happens if we do not choose love? How shall we know whether it is the kind of love that leads to prison or the kind of love that prospers, heals, frees, and inspires? We shall find the answer to those questions by learning what love is and how it works. So far, we have only looked at the results where love has been at work. Now, let's talk about love itself, what it is and what it is not. End of Chapter 1. Join me at the next video for Chapter 2, We Must Love or Suffer. If you haven't done so yet, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. That way you'll get notified of future videos.